He's already broken.
I think that's to be expected.
Good evening and welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, September 11th, 2014. If we could please all rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody. As I just said that date, I just wanted to, if you wouldn't mind taking a moment of silence, just in recognition of the tragic events that happened 13 years ago today. We could just do that. Thank you. Okay. Every time I say that date, it all comes back. It's like,
I know. It's amazing, 13 years though, you know.
It is amazing. 13 years.
Time just
And it
flies.
feels like it was just yesterday when you think of it.
It does.
We all know where we were,
We
that
all
exact
do.
moment, right?
Never
Just like
forget
when
it.
they say when President Kennedy died, everybody knows where
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah, it's true.
We won't forget that for a long time. I would like to start the meeting with the acceptance of the consent agenda, which is the approval of regular session minutes of July 31st, 2014, regular session minutes of August 28th, 2014, public relations minutes of August 6th, 2014, and public relations minutes of August 20th, 2014.
Barbie, I just want to point out on the minutes for August 28th, I was not present at the meeting, so I could not have seconded the motion to approve the consent agenda at that meeting.
Okay. Thank you for looking at that, looking that over.
So how will we find out who did second it? Would you look at the tape again,
tape
Laura,
again?
maybe? Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a so moved?
So moved.
Do you need to make a new motion omitting that? No?
You can accept it with the correction.
Can I-
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know the correction
Okay.
yet. right?
Oh, okay.
Second?
Second.
Okay.
A second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Also, acceptance of warrants number 011V15, number 10P15, and number 12P15.
So moved. Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. No student rep yet?
No. Next one there.
Next
They
one?
have to do their election, I guess, right?
Oh, okay, great. Looking forward to that, because I'd
Mhm.
love to hear what's going on at at
Absolutely.
school. Is there anyone in the audience that's here to discuss any item on the agenda? No, thank you. Okay. Gonna move right along to, administrative
Yeah,
reports.
so under my report, I'm just gonna, I just wanted you to know that on, the Professional Development Day, which, we just had on Tuesday, and during the election day, actually, that did work out. That worked out well. We weren't sure how it was gonna work being so close to the start of the school year, but, the work we did was very important. One of the major initiatives this year that we're engaged in is the development of district-determined measures. And so just for your information, because I know many of you like to see some, information that you can read and look at. We did include in your packet the PowerPoint presentation. We did employ a consultant from Teachers 21. That's the group we also worked when we first started in the educator evaluation system. This was a different consultant, but this is a person who had extensive experience in the education field, many years in the classroom, then he was a guidance counselor, then he was a principal, then he was assistant principal, then he was a principal, and in a couple of places, retired, and then took a job with Teachers 21. So what's nice when you hire people like that is they have extensive experience, they can answer questions. DDMs are not something that is familiar to many because they're a brand new thing. But, he started the morning working with all of the staff together at the high school. as you can see from the agenda. I think I put your agenda in there. And then there were breakout sessions at the school. Julie took a very big role in working with the elementary staff. And then Peter and Bob, who was the consultant, worked with the specialist service providers as well as special education teachers, which I think Donna was part of as well. And then the general classroom teachers. So that everybody was divided up in a way that made sense. So the grade levels had a chance to work together, the schools had a chance to work together, the departments had a chance to work together. Because really, the regulations on DDMs are not very intensive in the sense that originally they were going to be a very big deal, and they were going to need to, everything was going to need to be approved by the state and reviewed by the state and adopted in very formal ways. But really, there's just a couple of things that the state requires for DDMs, and that is that they are consistent across grades, departments, and levels. So if there are 5 people teaching 5th grade, and they have a DDM that involves scoring a writing sample, let's say, every teacher has to use the same scoring guide, every teacher has to use the same prompt, every teacher needs to look at it in the same way. So there's consistency across the grade. Different than I teach what I teach, I make my own assessments, and I measure my students' progress. That still happens, but the DDMs require that there's consistency across, and it's more than one measure, so it's over time. And it's measuring growth, not just achievement. So you can see if you go through the presentation, there's a lot of meat to it. This was, an introduction, clearly, and there'll be follow-ups at department meetings and grade level meetings and faculty meetings as the departments begin to develop and the grade levels to begin to develop what they'd like to suggest for DDMs for their to be used in their evaluation. Teachers are assessing students all the time in all kinds of different ways. This is a very specific, tiny piece of that. The law requires every teacher have 2 or 3 DDMs that they collect information about student growth. So when they're sitting with their supervisor as part of their evaluation process, they can discuss and share the evidence they have that they are having an impact on student learning. They may talk about all kinds of other assessments as well, but that's what's required as part of the educator evaluation system. 2 to 3 DDMs per teacher. Obviously, music teachers, those DDMs will look different than the 4th grade teacher, or the 8th grade science teacher. So it's very much a process where teachers were given this guideline, and then they've been sitting down and they've been talking together in their departments, and will continue that work. So this is a pilot year for us. We have not established DDMs, although at the elementary level, we have a number of assessments we already do. So for example, we for years have been giving Fountas and Pinnell, which is a fall, winter, spring standard. It's more of a standardized test. We also give the Dibbles at certain grades. So one of the things that we're emphasizing and the state emphasizes is that you shouldn't reinvent the wheel. You should look at the assessments you're already doing. So you might already be doing a post-test, but maybe you don't do a pre-test. So now you need to design a pre-test, and the pre-test and post-test is an example of a suggested DDM. So in some cases, it's tweaking what we already have. In other cases, it's designing something new based on the essential objectives in the standards, what students need to know and be able to do. We talk to the teachers about rigor, levels of rigor, so that we talk about when we design a DDM, how do we know that it's going to challenge all students, so that there's a range of possibilities to be able to show growth. We also are looking at, one thing that you also have to do is not only design the DDM and determine what the consistent scoring is going to be for it, but you also have to determine what's high growth, what's moderate growth, and what's low growth. So it could be that based on the data a teacher collects, that based on these objective scoring bands, that particular class did not did not meet all of those, or whatever the target is was not reached. So it might be that the teacher would be rated as having low impact over 2 years. So you have to have 2 years at least. So over 2 years, if a teacher has low impact on student, they still might be a proficient teacher. There may be good reason why that happened, and that's the discussion. That's why this
When you
conversation.
say over 2 years, so if it's a fourth grade teacher, she's not testing the students at fourth and fifth grade, her same students, she's testing.
That's
her
right, it's
fourth
over
grade.
2 years, cause it's their performance as a teacher, okay?
Yeah.
And then what has to happen is, we do report to the state, each year, the people that are having summative evaluations, we do report their overall rating. So let's say their overall rating is proficient, and then each of the standards, according to the rubric, we have to report on what those are, and then we have to report on the impact on student learning. Now, it's not really high stakes for teachers in that way, because you can be proficient and have a low impact on student learning because there's a good reason for it, or something that you have a plan to make an adjustment. But what it means for a teacher is, you would, if that were the case, you would go on you would have a 1 year plan, as opposed to a 2 year, what do we call them, 2 year, what's the word? Self-directed, thank you, self-directed growth plan. So obviously, the overall rating is really important, and the rating for each of those, as well as the impact, but the impact doesn't stand alone. It really impacts what level of plan you go on. And the goal is always continuous improvement. It's always trying to look at, as I said, growth. So it's not like with MCAS, we get a score, kids proficient, advanced. That's one way to look at it. But we also get a student growth percentile. So we might have some students who have needs improvement or even warning, but their growth percentile was 70 or 80. So we would make the argument that that student is growing, right? And that over time, given the right supports and remediation, or trying to work on accelerating where their skills are weak, when we look at the high school, we see students of all ability levels, passing MCAS and getting an MCAS diploma. That tells me the system works. That when you get the information, you do something with it, over time, you help kids get to the point where they're able to demonstrate mastery at the proficient or advanced level and be able to graduate with an MCAS diploma. So DDMs, we certainly could do a more detailed presentation for you once we get closer to having them
This is
developed.
what you spent the professional development.
This is what
day
we
working
spent the
on?
professional day
What was
working.
the general response?
From the teachers, Julie, did you look at the evaluations? I got the impression that teachers felt it was time well spent. I think they felt it was overwhelming.
Yeah.
It is
sounds like
overwhelming, because it's new language. It-
They're in the decision-making phase,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
determine what they would like to use as a measure of growth, and that's a big conversation.
Right.
That's huge.
It's kind of like, be careful what you wish for, because on one hand, people might say, well, why don't you just tell us? Just figure it out, give us the
Right.
assessment and just tell us. But then the fact, they might not like that. The fact is that when you have an opportunity, teachers really for the most part, know how to assess students. They can tell you that a student's made growth, but they've never really had to necessarily quantify it in this way. I think that's what they're struggling a little bit with.
Well-
Not that they don't know what growth looks like, but how do you determine what the numeric,
And what
span is?
one method of determination will be effective for an entire classroom of students? Because
Right.
you may see, because development in students is uneven,
Mhm.
some students are gonna have a great year in literacy, say, and other students are gonna have a great year in math. So how's the teacher gonna get credit? And if the teacher has to determine going in, at the end of the year, what that measurement is gonna be, I would think it would put them in a bit of a quandary.
Yes, well, I think that's their worry. It's like anything new, I think there are some teachers who are fearful about it. I think that, it is, like I said, it's overwhelming. But we've told them, we're not gonna get it perfect year one. In fact, other districts that are doing it don't feel they have it perfectly done. it's a new process for people. And so we're trying to just say to people, look, let's keep our eye on what we're trying to do and what we're trying to determine. You know what, maybe we're gonna try out some DDMs and we're gonna do them and say, that really didn't work, that really didn't measure growth, maybe we need to tweak it this way or move it this way. But we do believe that teachers have a lot of expertise and they're assessing constantly. So it's really a matter of, and there is something good about having a consistent approach to looking at, you know, if an A's for you a certain thing, and I would not give it an A for the same thing. We should have some ability to calibrate some of these kind of things. So I think it's inviting some great professional conversations, which is a good thing. That's what we said was a huge benefit from the new evaluation last year. Is it was creating some really nice conversations between administrators. As much work as it was and as much time as it took, there were some positives that came out of it, and, you know, those things get easier the more years you do them.
Sure.
But I did want you to know what the staff was working on. I know parents often, you know, why is my child off from school all day? You know, and we had the discussion about half days, full days. We were really glad to have a full day for this.
Sure.
Because it allowed us to sort of do the common things in the morning and then break off in the afternoon and start the conversations at the school level. But this isn't our strategic plan, this is one of our initiatives, and, you know, as we will certainly come back again and talk to you about what we're thinking about for DDMs, and before we actually, you know, consider them the DDMs we're gonna use, so you'll have a little more information. But this is obviously the start of it, and I thought it would be good for you to know upfront what we're working on.
How long has it been out, Carol?
What,
Like
the
are we-
DDMs?
Yeah, like are we
Well-
more of a late adopter or?
Well, we're not, remember, we weren't a race to the top district, so we didn't, some of the things, yes, there are districts who already are in this and are in their second year. They're actually not
Just
piloting.
their second year?
Yeah, we're kind of 1 year behind in that way. But, you know, there's a lot we can learn from districts who have gone through it before us.
That's what I was thinking.
And
That's
the
what
state has, if you ever, you know, wanna peruse something, it's not the easiest, website to get around. But if you go to the Department of, Elementary and Secondary Education and you just, you know, put into the search that you'd like to learn about, you know, DDMs or Race to the Top initiatives, you'll get a lot of information, and there's a lot to this. When we think back to when we started, you know, the whole process, this is a big part, and then the only other part that they've got that we have to also implement this year, which we'll talk to you in more detail about, is staff and student surveys. So we need to be in the process of designing surveys that are appropriate, or some tool that's appropriate to provide feedback to teachers from their students, and also provide feedback from staff for their administrator. So that's work we also have to do this year. We'll do it in coordination with the union and you, and, you know, because we want it to be something that's beneficial and useful. You know, if we're gonna do it, we might as well do it so it makes the most sense and is useful. So, just FYI on this, but if you have any questions, you can certainly ask Julie or I, and we're happy to give you more information, and again, we'll have a couple of updates on this over the course of the year. All right? And then the other thing that I put on here, and Mike's here, I see. Mike, you wanna come up to the table? Is the town maintenance plan. As I said in the orange notes, this is the beginning of a discussion. There's no vote required on this. This is important, you know. As I said to you in the notes, several years ago, the town actually took a vote at town meeting to consolidate maintenance with the schools. And it's required that in order for that to occur, you have to also, as a school committee, agree that you want to have that happen. And then, of course, you know, things go forward. So this has been an ongoing conversation for a while, huh, Mike?
I know, it
And
has been a
Barbie,
while.
I know, I don't know what happened.
We were on a committee, I was on a committee, we met maybe 3 or 4 times, and
Yeah.
it seemed like that was the way to go, because
Yeah.
it just seems
But
right,
the-
but then
but-
we didn't hear much about it.
Right, but the devil's in the details, as you can imagine, because, you know, we've put together, and Mike really did the lion's share of this. I mean, we've been chiming in and, you know, kind of expressing our opinion. And then I know Mike Farrell and Jim Lacey have also been very involved in this discussion. But, you know, you have to decide things like, and actually Joan has experience when she was in Beverly, because they were going to a consolidation. But you have to, you decide who do people report to? At one point, a couple years ago, when we discussed this, it was discussed that there'd be a joint report. So the person would report to both the town administrator and the school superintendent. Then the conversation came up about, well, how are you gonna decide priorities? How is that all gonna be determined? There were a lot of logistical things that just weren't, the school committee was not ready to agree to, they did the right thing, in my opinion, although it was very hard because it was right before town meeting. And so there was a lot of anxiety about, whether or not we should, could we support an override for the schools as well as an override for shared maintenance? And the school committee had to make the decision as to whether or not they were feeling confident and ready to make the decision to go, and they just didn't feel they could. So we have never given up on it. We've continued to talk about it because there is interest and there are things that really make sense about it. But we don't wanna set it up in such a way that it depends on Mike being here, or me being here, or the town administrator being this, it can't be about that. It's gotta be about, it's a solid process that everybody believes in, and every little detail is thought of. So Mike's here, and he can certainly highlight anything from the PowerPoint slides. Mike, the next step with these, after the school committee kinda looks and was also then to bring it back to Jim, but I said to Mike, I don't feel comfortable, like, having it go to a group that might go forward and try to help steer something forward if the committee didn't agree or wasn't informed, so that's the purpose of Mike being here tonight.
And just to give you a little history, when we started with those meetings, the town hired a consultant,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Joan and I went around with the consultant, we went to all the town buildings, showed him around, and he did produce a report, and I talked to Jim Lacy tonight, he's trying to get a hold of that report.
Oh, he
But-
is, okay.
But Joan did speak to him, and a lot of the stuff in here is kinda supported from what he told us.
Like the HVAC
Yeah,
position, he felt that was really, and he actually suggested the schools should be the group that takes over the operation.
Right, one reason is we have a budget and a staff.
And we have Mike.
We have a director.
And I spent some time talking to communities throughout Massachusetts that have done this, and they've all said to have one reporting party instead of two. Like, originally we were thinking of having two, but they've all said to have one reporting party.
I know, that seems.
Yeah.
If you had two, it'd be so difficult.
Yeah, and towns that have done it, the staff that works in, say, the town buildings are in one union, and the staff that works in the school buildings are in a different union, so they get different raises, different benefits, and it creates a lot of tension, yeah.
Do we have anybody with an HVAC background?
No.
No,
And a lot of towns are doing that because it's a huge savings,
yeah.
so.
Yeah, one of the things that we find, because we've been studying this both on the town side and the school side, is, everybody has different consultants. So if they have an HVAC problem, they might be going to 4 different vendors at 4 different fees and 4 different rates. Whereas the thought is if you can consolidate and you have sort of a tiger team, so you know who the town's electrician's gonna be, you can sometimes get a better value, and then if we can hire our own internal people who have some of these skills, that helps too.
Yeah, cause like one example is even paper towels, because we buy so many, we are paying like $25 a case. And one of the town buildings, when I looked at their receipts, was paying like $40 a case.
Yeah.
Because they only buy, say, 8 or 10, but we buy like 200.
Right.
So if we consolidate and we all purchase from the same vendors, we
With the
should,
savings.
where we buy a lot more,
Yes,
it
economy of
usually
scale.
helps with the price, yeah.
What I thought was interesting too, Mike, when we met, those few mornings that we met, was when we took the time to see all the different vendors that we were using.
Oh, yeah.
Like if somebody had,
Yeah,
an electrical
Yeah, it was
problem,
like
we
3
used-
electricians.
Yeah, there were all these different electricians and plumbers, and it just
Yeah.
didn't seem efficient.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of towns do, and Joan and I talked about it, they write like an RFP, request for pricing, and then they hold the contractor to that price. So it would be like a town-wide price for like a 2 or 3 year period or something like
Right,
that.
they can
Hourly
award a
rate, yeah.
3-year contract,
Yeah.
Yeah, is that typical 3-year? Do they go with just a 1 year or no?
Well, if they don't know the vendor, they will do a 1 year with an option to roll over for 2. But if it's a local vendor that they've done business with in the past and they've been satisfied, then they'd just give them a 3-year contract. And there'd be a rate of inflation to be built into their hourly rate, but it's just random. And then, you can put in a contract that they must respond within so much time, whatever. Sometimes he can't get people, and we're in a crisis. So,
So you're spearheading this.
yeah, now he
Wow.
is.
Jim Lacy's asked me to help him, and him and I have met several times and worked on this together. And then we've been going back and forth with Joan and Carol, and they've been reading through this and editing it and helped me out.
Well, so, like, right now, if there's a snowstorm, we have the Peter Durkee's
Peter does the
crew.
plowing.
Okay, and then our staff then, like, does,
Shovels all like the steps
Snow
and
blows.
walkways and snow blows, yeah.
okay, so we
Spreads
work
the ice out.
together.
They have a little bobcat,
Yeah.
yeah.
But for example, like the first person here, like
The
Janet
town hall.
Pantano,
At town hall?
yeah, she'll grab the
They
shovel
have
and
to
shovel
shovel
town hall.
themselves out.
Oh, really?
That's why it's beneficial for them to go with us.
Yeah, you would think, I mean, and
But could we get a little snow?
We have,
bobcat?
yeah, we
We
have
have
one.
one.
Yeah, we have it.
the school does.
Do we have enough for all these different
Well, in
buildings?
here, we've asked for employees and stuff. We do have equipment, but we would need more staff.
Sure.
Because without the staff, it would fail, and I mean, I wouldn't think that that would be the way to go.
No.
Right, oh,
Yeah.
right, obviously, yeah,
Yeah.
for more buildings, but what about equipment?
I think we're good with equipment. We might need some equipment. The town hall does have some stuff, and so don't some of the other
Okay.
town buildings.
And when we talked with Peter Durkee, Peter has talked about how, one strategy he uses is he'll take older equipment and he'll find a way to, I don't wanna say sell it, would it be, Mike?
Yeah, like kinda trade it in
It's not really
for
a
us.
barter, but it's like a trade-in, so
Yeah.
if you need a mower with a wider, berth, and then you have a couple of smaller mowers and a weed whacker that you're not using anymore, sometimes places will
Trade in.
trade in
yeah.
so that you can have that. So we definitely, I mean, Mike's done an inventory.
Of all the town buildings, it's in the spreadsheet, yeah.
Like, for instance, the cleaning people that clean, like, these buildings.
Yes.
So,
They use like a contractor.
right,
I proposed adding a person instead, and then we would use those money that they pay the contractor to pay the person.
Right, what will have to happen is various departments that are part of this, that have maintenance money, that would be.
Phased out,
they-
whatever
Well, it'd be
current
directed
contracts they
into,
have.
it would be
Yeah.
directed into the money that's,
For this program.
well, I know that was always the big problem, though, is like,
that's a challenge.
how much does each group wanna put in, how much should they put in, and who's gonna determine that?
Jim Lacy has gone through like 5 years worth of invoices, and he's put it all in a spreadsheet.
That's great.
Yeah, we're trying to decide on this from a data-driven point of view, like,
Yeah.
what has been spent on
I mean, he's done a
maintenance.
lot of homework as far as finance is going.
Yes, he has, and he's on the finance committee, so he has a lot of access to some information.
Is there a net savings at the end of the day? I'm talking about hiring people, and you need to buy a lot of $40 cases of paper towels to pay a salary.
Yeah. So one
And I
savings
know
is
that's kind of both extremes, obviously.
one
but-
savings that's in here for sure is we just recently did that energy project with the
Right.
town. So the town signed a contract saying they would maintain all of the equipment that was part of the project. The price to do that through the company that retrofitted everything was $80,000. So most of that is all HVAC things, and the cost of an HVAC person is $65,000. So upfront, we're supposed to be spending that $80,000, and we haven't as of yet. But to me, it's a $15,000 savings. But some other savings would be not so much on the school side, but on the town side. Every time they do anything here, they hire someone to do it. So they're always paying prevailing wage, and they're always paying, contractors to come in, even for small things like putting in window air conditioners and that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we don't pay our staff prevailing wage because we have a
We have a
negotiated
contract,
contract, yeah.
Right.
And I haven't gone through all those numbers with Jim yet. I've been working on the logistics and he's been working on the budget side. So we have to kind of put all that together and see, yeah.
And then you'll have like a whole cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
I assume.
And would you have to redesign any jobs, because this would attending to the other town buildings would take up a certain portion of your time,
Yeah.
right? And so would there be how would that be made up for on the school side? I mean, because right now you're 100% devoted to
To
the
the school,
schools.
yeah.
So would you
Yeah, I
have
mean, that would
somebody
be
else
something.
whose job might be slightly redesigned to be able to handle?
I've thought about that. I mean, other places that have done it have we have like what we call a head custodian who supervises the custodians. They have like a lead maintenance person who supervises the maintenance people. So that's always an option if we feel like it's needed.
Okay. So do you feel good about this? Do you feel like? this is-
Well, I'm really interested in it because I think it's a good way to get, it's good for the town, but I also see it as a way to help the new Pembroke School too with staffing and that kind of thing.
And you see this as very doable, something that can definitely work and, or,
If we get
We're
this, if we
working-
get the right staff, I believe it can work.
okay.
I feel like if we don't, I feel like it wouldn't be
Okay.
good for the school to do if we didn't get the right staff.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes- yeah.
I mean, I see do a lot of hands-on things now, so that
You have to have-
me, that, some of that might be taken away because I'd probably have to spend more time in, as far as management and supervising, but,
You have to have well-qualified people with a
Yeah.
sense of independence who can operate on their own, who aren't always constantly.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's the same work, it's the same work, it's just supervising a few more people.
Yeah.
Right, so we're still gonna be using the school dude and,
Yeah,
you know,
so,
and Mike, it just means that, you know, Mike's just gonna need to be, you know, using his time to be in a couple more places.
Yeah.
But it's the same work, it's not like we're giving him another job that's different,
Right, right.
you know.
I mean, I think it is doable, and a lot of communities have done it, so it does make sense for the community to consider it and do it.
Yeah, yeah.
But like I said, I got involved with the planning because I want to make sure that I'm comfortable with the planning.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad that you are
Yeah.
involved. That's awesome.
Is the staff giving you any feedback?
Our guys
As you
are
go through
really
this
for it.
process?
They seem like they
Oh,
are.
that's good.
Yeah.
Well, they, in the past, you know, town halls needed help on something, our guys have always done it. You know, that we help Peter Durkee, guys go over and do his office floor, you know,
Yeah.
strip it and wax it, and in return, you know, Peter's doing things that, you know, help
For
us,
us.
helping clear trees, creating a road, you know, that, there's just, it's really it's been a nice partnership. So that's why we feel kind of like this is a good time to look at this a little bit more, because if you wanna see something set up for success, you know, you wanna have the right conditions, at least when you're starting something. So, you know, there are a number of people, I think, that are in the right positions now that could make this work, but I think Mike's absolutely right. It's about staffing, you know, because we can't be in a situation where there isn't enough staff to do the work. Then everybody will be disappointed.
Yeah.
Right, especially with the new school.
Yeah, and we don't want it to take away from the school. I mean, we're pretty creative now about getting things done.
Absolutely.
We couldn't really take any more away from the school.
Right. I just know that that's a lot of like people's complaints about the existing Pembroke, is that we just didn't keep up.
Yeah.
We didn't put the money into it that we needed to, and that's why it is the way it is now, which the past couple of years, you know, it looks great.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, over time, we
Yeah.
just didn't maintain it like it should have been.
Right.
So we would hate to
Yeah,
see
so
the
I think
new
we
school.
have to do that no matter what anyways, but.
Right, and I think that
Right, with
in
the
here,
Yeah.
state.
Yeah.
in here, Mike had, I think there's some kind of information here that talks about the level of cleanliness
Oh,
of
yeah.
what you need in terms of staffing,
Yeah,
and that's
yes,
why we,
yes.
you know, we thought that was important information to share, so exactly what Barbie's saying doesn't happen. I mean, we're not talking about staffing it at white glove, you know, we're talking about staffing it at, you know, it's clean and well maintained. Because the town has made a significant investment in both the elementary, the new school and will be the middle high school, and even Pearlie. You know, they're putting a new roof on it, they're painting it, you know, the roof collapsed, that, you know, was all of that. So, you know, the town has definitely got an investment now in their facilities that I'm sure they want to see continue.
I do think the town, different departments do work so well together, like the electric department gave us their truck a couple of years back. It just seems like we all work together, and Pete
Yeah.
and his guys are always,
Helping us out and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
and likewise, you're doing
Yeah,
the same
we do
here, which
what
is
we can
great.
for them, yeah.
That's good. I for one hope it happens, because
Yeah.
I do think there will be a significant cost. savings overall,
Yeah,
so, and more efficient, it's just,
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an efficiency.
that's good. So where do we go from here? So you and Jim are just gonna continue to?
Oh, I think we probably have to, once we work out the numbers, have some kind of bigger
We'll
meeting.
get another meeting,
Yeah.
right, and we'll go over all of it, and then, bring that back to you, because that will actually have some money, some budget.
Right.
We just weren't in the position to have the budget ready for the packet. And he wants to speak with, Mike wants to speak with Jim, because Jim has compiled a lot of
Yeah,
information
information.
on the financial side of it.
Mhm. Now, I know Stu Eggenberg was also,
On the
from the
committee.
Board of Selectmen on the committee.
He was.
What does the Board of Selectmen, what do they have to do as well? They would have to approve this?
I would say so.
they've
Although the
already-
town has accepted to do joint maintenance at a town meeting.
Okay, so,
Be the budget, I think, would be the big thing.
Yeah, we're gonna have to look into that. I think, yeah, it would be the funding of it, I believe, because they've already said they'd like to enter into it. School committee says they'd like to enter into agreement. I don't know if there is a contract or something that needs to be approved by the board of selectmen. We'd have to research what the process is from
We
here.
did a memo of understanding in Beverly. with
Okay, then that's
Who
probably,
reports to who and how
Right,
the funding
exactly.
works, and both
Right.
boards signed off it.
right.
that's good.
But, this would be something, see, this is the tricky thing, the timing of it is sort of tricky, because if we would want this plan to take place next year, so we have it in place for the new school, then we would need to get the funding for it this year, which would mean we'd have to include the town, finance, whoever does need to include, would have to include these additional positions in the budget request. So, it might, they have till March, right, till the final stamp of approval is. But you wanna be having this conversation as part of the budget
Right.
discussion, cause it looks like, the town would add two.
Yeah,
and
and
we
we'd
would
add to two, yeah.
Or there'd be four total, and then, the challenge we'll face is, as you know, is we love this idea, but two additional bodies in our budget is going to raise the bottom line, right? And it will compete with other things, right? So we just have to be mindful of that, I think at one point the town was thinking, well, when they were talking about an override, they just develop a whole new department. And it wouldn't fall in anybody's department. And again, that's a discussion that hasn't been resolved. Like, would the finance committee want to establish, just like they have a police department, a fire department, a central maintenance department? And if that were the case, then that allocation of funds would be from whatever amount of money could be allocated that way. Wouldn't necessarily come out of the schools, or wouldn't necessarily come out of the town. So that's a discussion that, hasn't been had. But that's why we wanted to bring this to you, like, for your first meeting, so we could kinda get a
So you can
sense
think
of,
about it, yeah.
like, does this sound like something you'd like to see us pursue and get more information about the budget, but conceptually, do people like the idea of investigating it further?
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
then that's what we'll do, Mike.
all right.
Talk to Jim and get some more information, we'll come back again. Okay,
All right.
thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Yep.
Okay, school reports?
Nope, we don't have any school or department reports.
Okay. Subcommittee reports? Or do we wanna go to old business?
Did we skip over you? Well, we didn't skip over you on purpose, Joan, but you're not on the agenda.
Oh, right, we're
So
not-
there
yeah,
are two,
that's
there are
up to the audit.
two little Joan items we
Under
have to
financial, right.
discuss.
Right,
Yeah.
so, I did ask Carol if I could put on an approval of a 3-year lease for, a new copier at the high school. The copier, it's really old, like from 2006, has over 2 million copies and constantly broken, so.
It doesn't owe us anything.
So, I've been balancing the budget based upon our new hires, and so I was able to allocate money for it. It's $3,600 a year for 3 years, so I'll have to build it into the budget for next year. But in order to move forward, I do need a school committee approval.
I can tell you that at the professional development day, Julie, Peter, and I can attest to this, there were handouts that we needed to get ready for the staff, and you know, the copier
Died.
just wouldn't work. We had they were running up to the library
They went to
copier,
Staples.
they
We
went, and
paid.
then went to Staples because we,
That's
so,
ridiculous.
you know, that's the reason for the urgency, you know, we've known it's been a problem, but now it really is a problem that we can't work around anymore.
You need a decent copy
You
machine.
have to have a
You
copy
have to have
machine,
it.
especially in
I know you're
administrative
very
offices where-
conscious of being green and not copying more than is necessary, but we need a good copy, a working copy machine.
Yes, we do.
So where would the 3674 be coming from?
It's from savings of,
The
when we
wages.
replaced staff. We did
So we
really
had
well
savings.
in some
Good.
categories. In some categories, we were over a little bit, but most categories, we were under what we budgeted. So teachers left, and their replacement teachers were at the bottom of the scale, or, we budgeted most of our, real openings that we knew about at Mass to step 6, and I think we were able to come in under that, so that's where the savings are from. After you take care of this, I do have a transfer sheet, so I can start moving the money around so that the next Munis report will have everybody fixed in it, so.
Okay, so it would be a 3-year, okay. All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to approve, to enter into agreement, a 3-year agreement, costing the schools $3,674.28 each year for 3 years towards the purchase of a Konica Minolta copy machine at the middle high school.
Yep.
As presented.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So you need to- So these are the transfers.
Okay,
Um,
so that's the one we're gonna sign.
Yeah, I signed it, but you can send those around so they
Okay,
can look
so
at
here
it.
you go.
So the first page of the transfers, this is where we take the money, the accounts we take the money from.
Mhm.
So if you'll notice,
Oh, sorry, Tom.
almost everything except down to the bottom where you see supplies is coming from salary accounts. So those are some of the savings. Then you go to the next page, and those are the lines I needed money in mostly salary accounts. So it is, people make column moves, or, you know, that's usually what it is, or, you know, I don't know, replacement teachers cost a little bit more, or whatever. So my goal is to get this balanced into you for the next meeting, so that you don't continue to get Munis reports that are all in the negative.
Right.
Yeah, that would be nice.
So-
Because they're really not in the negative, it's just that
Right,
we have to
it's-
move them.
But, yeah, it's cumbersome, but if I can take care of this, we did much better this year. These aren't a lot of transfers. I've come
No.
into you before with pages and pages,
Yeah.
that first transfer, so
No,
this
if
isn't,
we budgeted accurately,
we did pretty,
should, yeah.
we did pretty well, yes.
Yeah, we definitely did. Okay, so this is,
All right, good luck. So when will that be, like, how quickly will they get it?
The machine?
Yeah.
The guy, trust me, he's put it in today. I said, if the school committee doesn't approve, you have to come get it out, and he goes, all right. This is our salesman.
We were fairly sure you would.
This
not
is our
have it.
salesman that they're on the state bid list, so we don't have to go out to bid for them. So, we bought a machine, for the administrative offices a month ago, you approved.
Right.
My staff hated it, so I called him up and he said, don't make a payment, I'll come and get it out and I'll put another machine in. We had gotten it with a color copier, that was his suggestion to have one in the district, but it slowed down our copies from 54 a minute to 36. And I thought Julie was gonna kill me, my Julie.
Julie, yeah.
Because she has to copy so many bills and everything, so he responds like that. So when I called him and I said, they're just like pulling their hair out up there, he says, let me go look. And so we have to do an analysis. We have, most of our machines in the district are up July 1st on the 3-year lease that started the day I walked in the door.
That's right, yeah.
So we're gonna have to redeploy machines now, because the architects are calling for 7 machines at Pembroke School. So we only have like 2 machines there now. So we're gonna have to he's gonna come in November, we're gonna meet, but when he heard we were in such a panic, he said, you know what, I can give you this machine. He said, I'll go get it at the warehouse, I'll bring it up, I'll connect it for them. And I said, well, my school committee isn't voting until Thursday night. He says, that's all right. If they don't approve it, I'll just come back and take it out. And I thought, oh yeah, over Julie's dead body.
She'll be lying on it. No, that's nice that we have a relationship with them.
Yeah,
He
been
does take
good.
care of us.
He's been very good.
Peter?
I think it's very important to note, because people think about copiers making they're not they're used more as printers. We don't have printers anymore
Oh,
for
that's true.
teachers.
That's true.
So they're networked and everybody it's like, they're like printers more than they are copies.
Okay,
So,
it's good to know.
So if a teacher prints on the third floor, are you telling me they have to go to your,
no, there's
Oh,
two
the-
in each
the
faculty room.
satellite thing?
That's why when she said 8 of them for the new Pembroke, that sounds like a lot, but it's not because there are no printers. So that's everyone's printer.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
Okay.
are teacher workrooms on each floor in the new Pembroke, so, and then there's office and then there's library. So, you
Right.
know, when you start looking at it that way, that's a big school, it's gonna, they're distributed across the school.
right. And it is something that has to be working.
Yes.
It does.
You need a copy.
You wanna see
Very
people
favorite.
get anxious.
Working printers and
They walk in the
copiers.
door in the morning and the copier doesn't work.
We're doing like a daily surgery on that.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Good. I hope it,
you're making them very
lasts.
happy.
Their lives easier.
Positive.
Little things.
Yeah. Little.
Very pro printer and copier up here.
I hope it lasts.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
You'll have to vote on the
On the
transfers.
transfers. I just do line,
Yeah, I think you
One-
just say transfer
From-
1 through 46 and the total amount,
okay.
I believe.
So the chair will entertain a motion to approve, transfers from line 1 through 46 in the amount of $142,556.30 as presented.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry for skipping over you, I forgot about that. Subcommittee reports? You met before, the governance met
Yeah,
before
we
this
did.
meeting?
Yep, so, let's see here. So, we did meet and we talked about the fingerprinting policy, and it looks like we're gonna be adopting the MASC combined fingerprinting background check policy. I don't think there are major differences
No,
in what we
no.
have today, so we're not looking to really change much, so you'll sort of see that in the next meeting, right? Is that
That's
what we
back
said?
at we were thinking of.
Okay. And then we spent a little bit more time on the employee laptop, agreement. And, we wanna try to accelerate that if we can, because we haven't distributed laptops yet. But we do have a number of open questions that we need to, just clarify around insurance coverage and cost, and we should be paying that expense, and you know, what can they load on it, and just some general use. So we're working on that. I think we made a lot of good progress, but we still got, have some open questions, so I'm gonna try to move it through quickly, but I don't think at the next meeting, or we're gonna try.
I think we're gonna have to talk about it before, because
And then-
because we have to get some answers to the
Right,
questions
and
we
then
had.
vote
so-
on it.
Yeah, but it's a new policy, so we don't,
Right.
you know, it really is a distribution, first reading, second reading, so we might wanna talk about, you know, can we distribute it in the packet, or get it out when it's ready, like under a separate email, so you can review it, and then try to do, two readings.
Right,
So that, you know, we can, because there's work to do on the laptops before they go out anyway.
Right.
You know, we have to configure them, and, you know, there's a few things that the school needs to do, and unpack them, get them all set up. But I would hate to see it be 2 and 3 months, you know, that we haven't got them in the hands of teachers because we can't
Yeah.
get the policy through.
right.
But it is important to have a policy.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wes feels very strongly about
Mhm.
that, and I think we agree with him.
Yeah,
But we also want those laptops in the hands of teachers as soon as possible.
Right, exactly.
and we started to talk about the meal charging policy, although we didn't get too far, we ran out of time. So we have some information to review, and that will be next on our agenda. And I think that was it for this evening.
Sounded good, thank you. Has safety met yet?
We met this morning.
Oh, good.
It's a fascinating meeting.
I
Truly.
loved those meetings.
I really enjoyed it. I think it's one of those ways that you find out how hard the people in this town work on behalf of the citizens here that you would never know if you didn't get an opportunity to sit in on these meetings. So I just left with this profound sense of gratitude to the people who work in this town for the work that they do on behalf of all the citizens, and especially for the children in our schools. There are issues that we discussed, and of course I left my notes. I had all these lovely notes I took for tonight, and I left them home. But what stands out is there were a lot of discussion about the bus issues at Pembroke. The bus company is very concerned about safety, and I'm going to meet with Margaret and work on getting information out to parents about the pickup and drop-off policies. We have one more year at that school. Did I need to repeat myself? So we have one more year at Pembroke, but we would
Is the
like it
bus,
to be a
bus
safe
issue, safety issue at Pembroke and Pearlie, or just Pembroke, or
It's Pembroke.
Pembroke?
It's primarily Pembroke that they have their concerns,
Yeah.
and we want to clarify for the public what the pickup and drop-off procedures are for students who are on the buses and not on the buses, and make sure that everything is spelled out in precise detail, and then work to hopefully get cooperation around that so we can have a safe year where no children are harmed during those times.
I know, because did you see that, I forget what town it was, but in a pickup situation, it sounded like ours, two little girls got hit by by a mom, I guess, that was picking up, and luckily they were fine, but it was.
The representative from the bus company
scary
was
to think.
very upset, and she said drivers are very upset about things that they've already encountered this year. And I know beginning of the year, routines aren't in place, but to really be able to stress to parents what the procedures are and what everybody can be doing to help to keep the pickup and drop-off
Bless you, Mike.
process safe for everyone.
Right.
So we'll be working on that, and we're hoping that when we move to the new school, a lot of those issues will be alleviated. Also, there's already been fire drills in all the schools. The middle high school was able to identify some concerns, and the police chief and the fire chief were very happy that those were brought to everyone's consciousness so that they can be addressed, and that they were, you know, we had the opportunity to learn about the issues in a drill as opposed to in an actual situation. So that's the purpose of the drills, and they are serving their purpose well. What am I leaving out?
Well, the fire chief talked about some additional fire programs that Rusty Ricker's gonna be doing in the schools. Principals have been working with him.
Right.
There was some discussion about the landing pad for the
For the
helicopter.
helicopter, that was
And,
news to me.
that was an interesting discussion, but, there was apparently a question about whether or not there would be one on the new turf field. And, it's not possible to do that because of the nature of the surface. And so the chief said that he was discussing with the contractor and the building committee whether or not the new Pembroke, there might be an opportunity.
Right.
But other than that, he listed a couple of
He
places in
listed
town.
2 places, and he felt that we were well covered with those 2 places,
Yes.
although having a third location at
He
the
thought
Pembroke
would be nice,
would
yeah.
be nice.
So go from none to 2?
No, we currently have 2.
Yeah.
Where are they? I did.
So
The way station on 95.
Way station, that's right, that
Oh,
was one.
yeah, okay.
Was it Farm Road?
Farm
Farm
Road.
Road, which I don't even know where that
Yeah.
is.
That's why it's good
I
to
don't
multiple
either.
lessons when they made it.
So I don't know if.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, we talked about, the newest, sort of threats to social media, with social media for
Yes.
kids.
That, I spent all this time sending you emails.
Oh.
You saw them. Yeah, there have been some social media issues that are very,
It's
Those
the
are vexing
anonymous ones,
problems.
the ones you
Those-
can't track.
yeah.
Those are the ones that are the most.
Right, and when they get sick of one, all of a sudden another company comes up with it, or it's probably the same company with this, under the same
Was it
name.
Yik Yak?
Yik Yak.
It's Yik Yak, and there's a few
And
others.
It
then
used to
there
be
was
Ask FM.
Yeah.
It's still,
Ask
that's
FM
still,
is
that's still
still-
a player.
Is still a player, and there was a third one that I did some research on, so.
The school is feeling challenged because kids are coming and reporting that they have seen these things or heard them, or they're the victims
Or
of.
that they're being victims of bullying, that they're being bullied in these formats, and you can't find out who the perpetrators of the bullying are. And so,
There must be a way, though.
there's not, Donnie was clear, the police chief was clear, there's not a way within Yik Yak.
Right.
The whole point of Yik Yak is you post anonymously.
He says that these things are, cause I keep asking all the time, well, aren't there federal communications people that you can complain to
Monitor.
that say, you need to take this stuff down? But what they explained to me was that apparently a lot of these things are originating in Europe.
Yeah, the
And
apps are
in
being
Europe,
built
there are
overseas.
different protocols and regulations, so, you know, you can't necessarily, but I know the school, even though, I don't want anybody to think that the school doesn't look into these things. You know, even if we can't determine exactly who's doing what, I mean, obviously the culture in the school is, you know,
Well,
about trying to
what I was
get,
able to find, I mean, I specifically looked for information about Yik Yak after that meeting, and Yik Yak does have within it, the ability for people to either like or dislike a post,
okay,
and they have a policy against bullying. They say they don't tolerate it, but the way that it is, what will happen is if somebody's posts have enough dislikes, they will ban that person from Yik Yak.
oh, that's interesting.
So, knowing that, I felt like, well, what we need to do is get a large enough group of people on Yik Yak who are willing,
And
I
dislike
mean,
them, yeah.
and to start really putting down those posts and just saying that they dislike them so that those users are kicked out. That's not to say they couldn't go and create a new username
No.
and password and everything,
Well,
but I
maybe
think
that's
that would get
maybe that's a
tedious.
strategy to
and-
share with the students.
Well,
That
that's,
if you don't like it, this is
Yeah.
something that you can do something positive about, you know, get people to dislike it.
there's a lot of information I found on the internet, and news stories about how these social media apps are affecting different communities and particularly schools and things that can be done. And so
Okay, will
I
you
shared
forward that
those
on to me?
just with the idea that perhaps they should be shared on our Facebook
Yeah,
page
yeah,
so that
yeah.
parents are able to read these things, and a lot of the problem comes, at least the authors of the articles I read, from parents not really knowing what their children are doing on social
Right.
media.
That's a lot
And
of it.
so we have to just increase awareness. It's all about trying to stay one step ahead
Yeah.
and then bring that information to the community and asking the community to get involved, I think. But that was a good discussion.
Yeah.
It was
And
it
also
was a scary
teaching the
discussion.
students as well,
Right,
I
we
mean,
talked
how to
about that.
Yeah,
keep
we talked
themselves
about
safe
safe.
and act respectfully.
Actually, it was interesting, Alana made a point that I hadn't thought about, and that had to do with, you know, cause you know, when you see these things being used for negative, you know, first thing you wanna do is say, you know, why don't people do anything about this, let's just stop this has to stop. But your point, I think, about when people create these sites, they don't create them with the expectation that people are going to use them the way that they sometimes do.
No, and if you go to all the sites, I mean, I did that. I went to all the applications, and there's one of them, and I can't remember which one. It has a whole, like, there was somebody who was an officer, somebody in the UK who worked with troubled youth. I mean, she's on the board of one of these apps, and why they think it's useful for children to have an app where they can post anonymously, like developmentally why that might be important and why that might be helpful to students at the middle high school age. But their policy is strictly against bullying and against sexting, and yet that does happen. So
happens.
it takes, I think, they want the community who are using the app to rise up against the people who are not following the ethics that the app and the intention of the app. And that's where I think there's a place for, if the community knows that, and if you read all these things, where I just think being informed.
Yeah.
Being informed of what kids are doing and ways that you can get involved if it's going to the negative. And that's what we didn't know this
We
morning.
didn't know that.
how
No,
to
we
get
didn't.
involved.
Thank
We
you for
didn't know
checking
what was going on with
Right.
these apps, so.
So, that's good, that
We pulled a date
sounds
for
like,
monthly meetings.
right, second, we'll meet on the second,
second
Thursday.
Thursday of each month. So, very, very informative meeting, very, I think, a really useful, powerful meeting.
Thank
And
you.
we do have cyber safety programs and curriculums at all
It's
grade
just so
levels.
hard to
It
stay
changes
that
so
correct?
fast.
So
I
hard.
think that's part of what it is. The social media scene changes so quickly.
It does, and the names of the different apps,
Right.
is, you know,
Right.
that they're changing, but the way they operate and work and seems kind of similar.
Yeah.
That doesn't
Oh,
seem
yeah.
like
Oh, yeah.
it's changing
Well,
all
I
that
know the
much.
school does what they can to monitor, and I know the police department said that they have people designated to actually.
To read Yik Yak,
to
they have
read-
two
yeah,
officers
to-
on Yik Yak
yeah,
all
yeah.
the time.
So, you know, that's good too.
Well, because people are reporting where they see police officers.
Yeah.
And not so In very colorful language, let's say.
But I would think our computer teachers have a real opportunity to be able to speak with students and talk about, well, what is a healthy way to use these sites? Why would you wanna go on? What do you and your friends talk about? And get information from the
Sure.
students and bring up conversations so that they can, you know, really think about how to act with kindness and respect toward each other. And then, of course, parents, we all need to be aware, we all need to be
Right.
watching, but the students need to learn how to behave in the first place, how to, you know, act
Very hard.
in the first place on,
And at that
on these
age, to not
apps.
go along with the crowd,
Mhm.
to not get
It-
sucked up into the
yes.
crowd mentality. I think
Yes.
that's, I mean,
And
that's
that
part of
comes
what the
in-
life, the learning lessons of high school are,
You
right?
know, yep, but the
So-
bullying prevention and the cyberbullying prevention all, you know, need to be a strong, gives kids a strong foundation so they really, you know,
Sure.
are sure of their ability to act respectfully.
It was a good meeting.
Thank you.
Mhm.
School building, have you met?
No, no,
No?
we have
Do you know
not.
when the next one is?
September 16th, right?
Next
Is it?
week, next week.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I did learn today that they do have a challenge with the septic system.
Oh.
And it's, it has to do, they're working with the Board of Health, but it has to do with, as they've been digging down, they ran into, in a certain section, some organic, material composition that is not conducive to a septic system because it has to have some ability for the things to not get caught up. So it's gonna require some more extensive digging, which is going to be a fairly, significant cost. So the building committee will be talking about that, coming up. Joan and I, and Wes, went through today with Courtney, and the, woman who's doing the colors, you know, the paints and all that stuff. And, a lot of, some of the tiles up now, so there's a lot more work. It's still a lot to go, but, it is really amazing how they just know what to do and everybody works together, so. But Chuck was over there and he did mention that to me, that there was something that's going to come up that's going to be an additional cost.
Wow. Well, that'll be an interesting meeting then,
It will be.
on the 16th,
It
so
will
that's
be.
next Tuesday?
Yes, the turf field has started though, did you notice
Yeah, I
that?
wanted
Did
to
you see
ask
they were
about
digging
that.
up the dirt?
I did.
Yes, and we're having a conversation, you know, with the town on, you know, the good dirt, the loam, that Pembroke is going to go to Pembroke, how that's all gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it does look like, it would be, more of an exchange, than anybody getting money on either end. There doesn't look like there's gonna be an exchange of money. But there'll be cost savings on the Pembroke project because there won't be a need for the contractor to buy the loam. Because in essence, we're transferring the loam that's there to that location. Originally, there was discussion about perhaps that would be a way to add to the turf project. But, it doesn't look like that can work because,
Was that $80,000
it
savings
doesn't
that
look
we were
like it
talking
can
about?
work that way, but I verified with Lindsay that the budget for the project does not include that. That would have been something additional, that would have allowed maybe us to buy another light, or to do, some kind of build a little bit bigger contingency in case something happens along the way. So that, I was happy to hear that, so we're gonna move forward with the turf project, everything that was in the budget you approved and the project you approved is on target to go. It's just, this would have been something that might have been able to offset, you know, some cost for some additional things, so. But, yeah, it's very exciting, and we're sorry to lose the parking, because that has been a little bit of a challenge, but, you know, it's happening now, I'm so glad to see those, bulldozers, that's right, I should remember
Yeah,
that, I had 3
exciting.
boys, and all I read about was trucks when they were growing up, but it's been a while. But yes, that's all good too.
How has, this is a question for Peter, how are the students doing with the no parking? Are they fine? I mean, I know they were,
Haven't heard a thing.
yeah, that's good. The
That
only,
doesn't mean they like it.
yeah, the only thing that, so dropping off, most of them are parking over at the parking ride.
Yes,
We should maybe reinforce
crossing at the crosswalk.
to walk down, because sometimes they walk in between the cars well before the
Oh, yeah.
the crossing guard,
They don't go to the crosswalk.
so they're kinda
they
going
just
in
cross
between
with, right.
traffic,
Oh, okay.
you know? And I would hate to see, you know,
Oh,
because it's busy in the morning, for some reason, the school year has been more busy than I've remembered it in the past. Like
It is
even
busy.
Andover Street, it goes all the way past St. Mary's Church from the light there. So I
right.
think maybe the kids are finding they're running, you know, it looks like they're running because they're afraid to be late. So maybe we can just reinforce to go to the crossing guard.
Yeah, that's a good idea, and just for parents to.
Yeah, that could be on the
speak with
morning announcements easily,
kids.
right?
I mean, I have a son who parks in that park and ride too, and we've had that conversation.
Yeah,
It's
to
like, I
walk
want you
down
to
all the way.
walk all the way down and then go to the
Mm.
crosswalk with the crossing guard. Do not be running across the street at some spot because you think you can make it before a car gets to you.
Yeah,
Or,
no, it's
you know,
scary.
because I've heard
Scary.
that
There was a
kids do
very
that.
serious accident there years ago.
Years
so-
ago.
Yes, yes.
Okay, no other meetings, no one else has one.
I just, I just make for public relations, we have not had a public relations meeting in the
Mhm.
meantime. But I just did some research, we were discussing the, Let's Talk service
Yes.
that we were thinking about putting on our website. And I spoke to two, school districts that have been using it. I was actually able to speak to one, and they've been using it for about a year and a half. And they like it a lot. They feel that it does engage the silent majority, you know, people who might not otherwise know how to connect with somebody or be able to, you know, take the time to pick up the phone or something like that. And she also said it's a good way to get information from the public and the community about hot topics, different, you know, when there's a situation or something, and you know, just to get thoughts from people, know what's going through people's minds, what are their concerns, what are their questions, what would they like you to know. She said the anonymous feature is good. You can't get a response if you submit anonymously.
right.
She said not a lot of people do use it, but some do, and they, you know, give interesting information to the district.
Right.
And then, so that was Burlington, Vermont, and then Sioux City said that they've just started using it, but it's been very helpful so far. We've gotten great feedback. People like it being there. So I just wanted to tell you
Yeah.
that.
And Jesse gave me a
Thank you.
couple of other contacts that'll forward, and we can look at that too.
Oh, good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna move along to old business. We're gonna talk about the field naming discussion that we had at last meeting we had. Mr. Remind me of his name, Mr. Mulligan, correct, and so he couldn't come this
Right,
evening.
he
We
said
told him
that.
he didn't really have to come, but I thought it was so nice that he did, you know, come forward and write that nice letter about Mr. Collmore. I don't know the gentleman, but he sounds like he was one of those educators that we all would love to have in our schools. I haven't heard from, you know, no one else came forward saying no, or we'd like this name to be thought of. I don't know if any of you have.
No.
Okay.
Nothing.
Okay, so if, we're all in agreement, and anybody have any discussion before we set a motion out to, I know Alana wasn't here.
No, but I read up on
Yeah.
it, so, yeah,
Okay.
it's good.
Yeah, it was really nice. The only thing that I had, and I probably should have asked Mr. Mulligan this, is it's not gonna be till next September that they would name it.
That's what he said.
Yeah,
That's what he
so
said.
my assumption is just because of the weather, like it's,
There, I think he said there'd be, you know, once the field is in, you
Inaugurate the
know, they
fields.
would have a dedication ceremony. I don't know if I remember September. Did he say
yeah,
September?
he said
thought he
September
said
twenty
Was that
fifteen.
because he was thinking about the
The first
football
football?
season?
Yeah.
The football game?
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking,
Yeah, all
so,
of that,
because
yeah.
it's not gonna be
Makes
done
sense,
till
yeah.
November, so we
Right,
might
so
as well
they'll
just
miss the
wait till the
whole-
following. Okay,
There was, when we talked about it the last meeting, there was another, I guess it was the baseball fields that the the memorial plaque or whatever it was had been
Missing.
missing
Yeah.
or lost or whatever it was.
It's in like the shed, they
Yeah,
thought.
I would, and it doesn't relate to this obviously, but I would think that should be, if we are naming fields and
Yeah,
memorial,
put
we
back
should
up.
make sure that,
Yes,
We
Krista
are.
Franco, said he was going to look into that actually,
Okay.
and Mike Anderson was,
okay,
is
To
on
search
that as
for it.
well, yeah. And
Just
if,
for-
if we can't find it, then we will make a proposal to
Right.
Have
replace
another
it.
one.
because if we're gonna do it, we should,
It's the right
We
thing
should
to
do
do.
it.
I
Right,
agree.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good point.
Okay, so the chair will entertain a motion to name the new turf field located at the Georgetown Middle High School in honor of Mr. James Collimore, as presented by Mr. Tom Mulligan.
So moved?
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's exciting. I'm sure his family
So
will,
we will
We'll love that.
notify his
family.
family about that.
Yeah,
Very appropriate
nice.
naming.
Very nice. Okay,
Okay.
the turf field
Okay, so
agreement.
Yeah. So I didn't put a lot of information about this in because this is a work in progress. So remember not that long ago, you approved those two, the donation agreement and the use agreement. When it went to the Board of Selectmen approved the donation agreement, but not the use agreement. And part of the reason that that came up is that the town administrator had advised the board that he didn't think it was going to be legal to enter into such an agreement because it involved the difference between leasing and licensing, and it was some legal information. So I asked Mike if, he could talk again to legal counsel, and then I actually talked to our legal counsel, and then the legal counsels, talked together. Because Copeland and Page, the town, attorney for the town, said in fact that they did not believe, they believed that such an agreement could not be entered into because it involved town land, and it required a vote of town meeting to allow an organization to have exclusive rights to a parcel, to a town field, a town piece of land. And that it needed to be, again, town meeting approval. Our attorney, and actually Naomi referred it to an expert in her office that deals with these kind of things, and that's Mr. Mulligan. Some of you may remember him on another issue we dealt with him at some point a couple years ago. He concurs with Copeland and Page's reading and of the law. And so I asked him to put in writing for us a letter that explained that, so that's what you have in your packet. The other conversation I had with him had to do with, so the first option that involves town meeting involves the town developing a list of specifications, and it's subject to the procurement law, chapter 30B. And so that information would have to be registered publicly. Bidders would have to be able to apply to be using the field exclusively, as per the use agreement we decided on with the GAA. That would then, the town meeting would have to approve not necessarily select who it went to, but would have to approve the process, and that they wanted in fact to go through that process to entertain an agreement with, a party to use the fields. So Mike actually has that process in the works, because of course the town meeting's going to be coming up and they need the language. So that's one way to go. Now there's risks to that, as you can imagine, because what if somebody else gets it? And now the GAA has donated $470,000, which is in the it's donated, it's being used. So I said, well, what's another option? What else can happen? And so he said, well, school committee could enter into a resolution it's not a contract, so it's not binding, which is really what the GAA was hoping. You know, if I'm not here, if John and Mark aren't, you know, in charge, if another school committee comes on board and says, well, gee, we got this turf field, we can make money on it, we're not giving it to, you know, this organization for this amount of time. So, you know, I don't think I think the odds of that happening are slim to none because of the generous donation that they've made to, we couldn't have done it without them.
Is this run by the GAA?
The-
Get in there.
They've already donated without them, we couldn't put the turf field in,
Right.
and then they're donating additional money to replace the turf. So I don't think there's a school committee that's gonna come along and not be respectful of of all of that. But I understand their trepidation, their nervousness. So I said to him, well, just for the sake of argument, you know, perhaps you could put together what a resolution would look like, just in case. So that's what you have here. Okay. So the question is, has anything been run by the GAA? No. The answer is no. They have seen no documents, because they're brand new. Mike hasn't even, he said at the end of next week, he thought that the attorney would have the language. But I have talked to John Pingree about it, you know, about the dilemma we're in, and, you know, he said, well, you know, I think, you know, we're gonna have to pursue the, you know, the town meeting thing. So I'm just trying to make sure before I go to the GAA, I wanna be able to share with them what the various options would be. And then the other option is the one that Mike had originally suggested that they do, but there was a lot of language in that document that really made them nervous. It was a lot of legalese. And actually, I sat with them and I said to Mike the other day, and I think Joan was there.
Yeah.
I said, you know, Mike, I really believe that there's things in that, you know, is that set in stone? Can't we, it was a licensing agreement as opposed to a lease. So I said, you know, there's gotta be room in here for there to be, you know, things removed that just really don't apply, like they had to have enough money to be bondable. Well, they're not an organization that's ever gonna be bondable. So there are things that didn't apply to them. So he said, no, he said, actually, we could take another look at it. So we all think that's the best thing to do, because that gives them the most security. I think it's the lowest risk. But, you know, we just need to do this. You know, we need to get this in place because the field's going in and it's a wonderful opportunity in addition. And we certainly wish this legal issue was, you know, brought to our attention much before, you know, we're here, but we're here. So we have to try to, you know, honor the agreements that we all wanna see honored. So I put this in here because if we did do a resolution, you would, the GAA felt that this was the best option, you would need to vote on it. Would need to be an agreement you would make with them. But, as I said, I'm hoping to sort of figure out a way to maybe come to something in that licensing agreement that might really make better sense and be applicable and appropriate, you know, and the GAA can feel some sense of protection, so to speak, and then it takes care of what the town needs to have on its end, going forward. So that's where we are. Nothing about this project has been easy, you
I
realize
know.
that, but it's gonna be wonderful when it's done. And it is good that we all have the strength of a good partnership, because, you know, these kind of things could certainly strain, you know, any relationship. And I really, you know, applaud the GAA for continuing to, you know, keep moving, and, you know, we do believe in this project and we wanna see it come to fruition. But it would be, can you imagine that if all of a sudden somebody outbid them?
No,
I mean,
that
that just-
that would be the worst
When I read that in
nightmare.
the letter, I thought, oh, no, we can't have that.
And there are some things that you can put in documents, that are additional information that, you know, sometimes can, you could say something like, must have demonstrated proven, commitment to improving, you know, the town of Georgetown, right? So not
Which they
everybody would,
certainly
but you
have.
can't, you have to be very, very careful that when you're putting those specs together, that you don't, you know, overtly, you know, and
Bias, show
consciously
bias,
bias, yeah, and because that can cause a lot of problem on it. So you have to do the process right, but you do have some latitude to be able to, you know, put something in there that, you know, but again, it's still a risky proposition. So anyway, it was more of an FYI, I just wanted to.
Does the TAA have legal counsel that they can
Well, you know
consult
what,
with, or do
I don't believe they do, I think they have people they can go to if they
Sure.
want legal advice, but I don't think they maintain a legal counsel.
Sure.
Um,
That's
So,
the hard part.
that
I
is
think.
the hard
I think
part,
that's how
yeah.
we get here, is that
Yeah.
we're we're a state organization, we're governed by these rules of the state.
That's
and
right.
And they're not.
They just wanna, they just wanna
They
do
just wanna
what's
do
right.
something
They-
nice
wanna
and
feel-
you know, I
do
mean,
something-
you
get a
know,
little benefit from it,
We
which is
sometimes
so-
joke about, how hard it was to give $1 million donation,
Yeah.
you wouldn't think that would be a tough thing, but,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
been a challenge. So really, I don't need a vote on that because we're not at
Thanks
the
for bringing
point,
it
but
to our
we're.
attention.
Yeah, and you'll
it's
keep
good
us
to-
updated on
Absolutely,
that.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
good to
Okay,
know
good.
what's
And you
going
did say
on.
that John is aware of it, Mark
Yes.
too, I would
Yeah,
assume
well,
so.
yeah. But I'm gonna give John a call and, see what we can look at that licensing thing again and maybe ask them to move there.
Okay, well, it's good to see it,
I know.
the bulldozers there, and I
know.
think the kids are excited too.
Oh, yeah, it's gonna be, wait till they
Oh,
see the
yes.
field go in, it'll be
Yeah,
just
it
great.
will be nice.
Definitely.
So while the home football games are played in Haverhill Stadium?
Haverhill Stadium.
Haverhill Stadium, okay.
Oh, I wanted to just mention, I got a nice email from Beverly Enos, saying, when she came up on election day, how she was just amazed. She hadn't been up to Pembroke, and she said, I was just amazed at what I saw and what a wonderful looking facility, the town's gonna have, and, so she asked me if I would come to her taping on the 24th and chat with her about the new school and the progress of it, so she said, the taxpayers would love to hear more about it, and, she said, I heard a lot of positive, talk, so,
Good.
but it is amazing, if you don't go up to Pembroke, if you have no
Yeah.
occasion to go up there, and then you drive up the road and you do see the school and the
Yeah, it's beautiful.
it's really, it's amazing when you see the, where it is now and where it will be, it's gonna be terrific.
Yeah,
I
it
just
is.
wanted you to know, Beverly went
That's
out of
nice.
her way to comment on that.
My daughter was very excited to go to school the first day of school to see, she said in the car, we're gonna get to see how they're doing on the new school. I was amazed
Yeah,
that
it
she
looks
even thought
awesome.
about it, and
Oh,
we were
yeah.
pulling up the road and she's like, wow, look at it.
It's gonna be great.
How is the recess going at Pembroke?
What do you think
It's
about?
going very well.
Oh, good.
Mike, the second day of school, went out and bought all kinds of equipment. There's a basketball hoop, there's balls and tennis balls, so all kinds of stuff for the kids to do. It's going
Okay.
really well.
And the location,
Yeah,
everything is good, parents are happy?
We haven't heard anything.
yeah.
I haven't had any complaints.
Yeah, that's good.
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 While we're on the topic of, I might have skipped over it, that Paul Locke conversation, I told you we were gonna do this community
Oh, yeah,
I
the
need to change, I
DEP.
do need to change the date on that, cause
Okay.
I guess I didn't realize when we scheduled it,
Yes,
that that's Rosh Hashanah. And I don't want anybody in town to feel if they wanted to come, that they wouldn't be able to come, so Laura's reached out to him, and actually Bruce Tarr called me the other day to ask me a couple of questions about the school, and I mentioned it to him, he said, I'm definitely gonna come or send somebody, so Laura and I have to remember to contact
He
him, because
knows,
I know
yeah.
his schedules, I don't want him coming out here on the 24th and nobody being here, but, we're thinking, maybe early October.
Oh, okay.
And I also mentioned it to Stu Eggenberg when I saw him last night, open house, and he was very happy about that. So
Yeah.
I think it'll be worth the time. We'll get it out in advance, so anybody who wants to know about it, and come, will be able to do so.
Yeah, and it's very nice that he's doing that for us.
Oh,
taking the
very
time
nice.
To come out and
yeah.
do that.
But if
and
there are
put a
any
lot of minds at
questions, like,
ease.
when you hear, or you personally might have questions, or if you hear, questions that you've heard from people, if you could just send them to me, because then I can send them to him, so he'll have a little sense of, kind of what really does the community wanna learn more about.
Sure.
So he can make sure he's prepared for all of that. So I will have to change the date, I apologize about that, but I think it's an important thing to do.
Yeah, I agree. It is. Okay, moving along to new business, we have, an updated list of homeschooling students. Okay, so, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the 2014-2015 updated homeschool, family approval.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You can go now.
Unless it was a homeschool question, that's why I wanted you to stay. Yes. You can go too. Have a
Okay,
nice
and then,
night.
Have a good evening. Thanks for coming.
oh, these are the,
Yeah, these are
Okay.
the side letters, the next several items.
right. Okay, so, golf coach,
Yes, the golf coach, if you remember last year when Chris proposed it, it was like a JV level coach, and we were trying to figure out whether it was gonna, rise to
And
the.
it has.
It's
It's
good,
good.
it has. So
That's great.
we wanna give the coach a salary that's consistent with what another coach with similar responsibilities is. These were also suggested by Chris and supported by Joe.
okay.
And what was the high school play competition? I was curious about that.
Where is that, high school play?
That's the stipend for the
That's
the
the
high
stipend.
school,
You
the,
know-
the
you know what?
advisor.
Laura, is that right? I thought it was for the middle school. I thought it was Carrie Donovan, and Carrie does the middle school play. So you know what? Let us confirm that that's true.
Is
Um,
Mandy,
because,
somebody else doing the middle school play?
you know what?
Mandy
I
McGuire
tell you what,
doing
if
middle
you
school
don't
play?
mind, because these came, through an email, I think, from Joe. So if you don't mind approving it, and if it's not the right one, then I'm gonna come back.
I was just wondering
yeah.
what the play competition was. What is that?
Oh,
What,
well,
is
they-
it an athletics thing or is
No,
it a drama thing?
no, it would be a drama thing.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I know the person we're talking about, so it
Okay.
would be a drama thing.
Okay, great.
But I do need to verify whether it's high school or middle school, and it may very well be high school. But I know when we do the high school play, we have a different way of breaking things out, so this may be an additional position that they're adding in as part of the high school play. So I have to just verify that.
Okay, do we have to do them individually, or can
No,
I
I
put them
mean,
all
as-
together?
I think you could do them all together, but just list them separately for Laura's record.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve a stipend in the amount of $3,679 for the 2014-2015 school year for the golf coach. As well as a stipend in the amount of $800 for the 2014-2015 school year for the
High school play.
high school play competition stipend.
In the middle school.
And, these are two, and a stipend in the amount of, what does it say, or?
Well, because our coaches, there are two levels.
Oh.
So when you first begin, it's level one, and then as you have an experience, it's level two. So this, as middle school cross-country coach is a new position. So what it's really gonna cost us is the level one. But when it's in the contract, it's listed as the level one and level two are both listed as salary. So this is just what they're recommending.
So say both?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so the stipend in the amount of $3,205 or $3,455 for the 2014-2015 middle school cross-country coach, as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I love seeing cross-country.
Oh, and you know what?
I'm glad.
That program, when I first came, had, a handful of runners, and now they have enough, so they have to have a
That's
middle
great.
school program.
Yeah, that's great.
And well,
It is.
Brian
It's terrific.
Macy's is a terrific coach and very motivating, very involved with the kids. So he's built a nice program there, and it's one of my favorite banquets to go to because the camaraderie on that team is just like
Oh, that's
I can't
nice.
even describe it to you. It's just an amazing team. Just team sport. And it's so individual in many ways, but it's not, it isn't, they don't act that way. It's
Right.
very much a team.
That's
Great.
good. I'm glad to see that. Okay, then we have a nice athletic, donation from the Nemiroff family. They donated a dual-action Smith fitness machine to the Georgetown Middle High School, which is great.
Yes.
Cause that,
Needed.
that room in there, is nice. Yeah, I was surprised at the nice equipment that we saw,
Yeah.
remember at
Yeah,
at
it
the
was
tour?
a lot more than I was
Yeah,
expecting.
even like the older equipment still looked pretty,
Yeah.
pretty good, but it's donations like this that, really help out the kids, so we appreciate it. This is gonna be the beginning of a trend. Every meeting, we have a donation
Donation
from
from somebody.
somebody, which is very nice. So the chair will entertain a motion, to approve the, donation from the Nemiroff family of a dual-action Smith fitness machine that will be located at the Georgetown Middle High School.
So,
Second? All in favor? Aye? Aye. Thank you very much for that generous donation, that's nice. Okay, and there is no, need for an executive session this evening, so the meeting is adjourned at 8:37. Have a good night, thank you.
thank you.